course, the big story of the weekend, Ronda Rousey's 54-second win. Another armbar victory for Ronda Rousey, this time over Sarah Kaufman. It is her 6th straight pro victory via armbar, and she is still, of course, undefeated. Everyone wants to know what's next. For that and a whole lot more, we go now to our next guest. He is Ronda Rousey's manager. He is Darin Harvey. He joins us right now on the MMA Hour. Darin, how are you?
Fine, thank you, Ariel. Thank you for having me on the show.
It is a pleasure. How are you feeling less than 48 hours removed from another big win by your good friend and client? I should say she is also a good friend because you guys are very close. I mean, just another victory, and to do it like that. Everyone knows it's coming. Everyone knows that's what she wants to do, and she's able to pull it off again. Talk about how you feel when you see something like that.
Well, I'm emotionally drained and elated at the same time. I'm energized and de-energized. It's taken so much out of me. I worry because, you know, I love my athletes so much. I love Ronda so much. So every time they step in that cage, you really, even though I know within 99.9% what's going to happen, there's always that fraction. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's nerve-wracking, you know. And this time I wasn't in the cage with her. I didn't corner her for this fight. So I felt, normally I have to be strong for her, so I can't show my nerves. This time I was sitting next to her mom, and I was just like sweating, and I almost passed out, you know.
Why weren't you in the cage with her? Because if you ask me, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it. She's done so great with you in her corner, I should say. Why weren't you there?
Well, first of all, I think it was more appropriate to have Manny Gambarian, who's an excellent grappler, and he can give her a much better warm-up than I can before the fight. She really doesn't need me. It was more symbolic, me being there. Of course, Gene LeBells needed to be in there. Edmund Darpetian, who's an awesome boxing coach, and Leo Franco, who's the wrestling coach. It was just, I can't think about my personal needs with my athletes. I have to think about what's best for them, and it was definitely best for Ronda to have the corner that she had.
I asked this question right before the fight on Saturday night. I want to get your take on it. Which fight felt bigger, and which win, in your opinion, was bigger? Beating Miesha Tate, that beef that they had, the trash talking, the champion at the time, her first title win, or beating Sarah Kaufman, who, you know, already beat Miesha Tate. The hardcores may think that she's better than Miesha Tate. No trash talk there, but her first title defense. In your opinion, which fight was bigger? Which win was bigger?
Well, if I went by the amount of anxiety I had, it was this fight. I was much more nervous for this fight because I thought Sarah was a much better banger. And if there's a chink in Ronda's armor, it would probably be her boxing, though it's not really a chink. I mean, she's really progressed tremendously as a striker. I mean, she's worked out with some world-class boxers and kickboxers and just did a fantastic job in this camp. She's one of those athletes. But to answer your question, I think I was more nervous about this one because the pressure, even though there's a lot of trash talking in the last one, like Ronda said, she's not really a champion until she defends her title. And now she's really a champion. And, you know, there was doubt in a lot of people's mind. Like I studied Kaufman's, you know, footage incessantly, just constantly watching. And she's accurate. I mean, she's kind of one-dimensional, but she's dangerous. She tucks her chin down, she throws punches, and, you know, I was a little bit nervous about it. I knew that Ronda would close the distance. It's like, you know, and I would talk to the corner about it, and I talked to all the coaches, and we kind of agreed that even though Greg Jackson's probably one of the greatest strategists in the sport, it's like comparing maybe, not saying that Kaufman is a Pinto, but by no means, but this is an analogy that I use. It's like a Ferrari and a car that's not nearly as high performance, and, you know, saying, yeah, if you get the jump on the Ferrari, then you're going to win. But there's no way that somebody could get the jump on Ronda. You see how explosive she is, how she closed the distance. We worked months and months and months just on her footwork before we really even worked on any punching. Now we've incorporated punching and more technical boxing stuff, but the footwork was the key to the boxing, you know. And that's kind of our coach really has, Edmund has the philosophy. He doesn't want our fighters ever to get hit, you know.
Be honest with me, Darin, here, though. Yeah. Did you really expect that she'd be able to submit her that quickly?
Put it this way. The very first fight we had, I'm shocked every time, yet at the same time not. You know what I mean? Because you never know what's going to happen. But yes, I did. I knew that if she closed the distance, which I felt very likely that she would be able to close the distance, because I've trained with her. I've seen her train with guys that have never been armbarred before. And she's somehow, if you notice, she transitions. She's such a master. And I'm a pretty decent jiu-jitsu guy, and I train with real masters such as Ronda, and they're 5 steps ahead. So you might be stronger, you might be faster, but you can't keep up with her pace in the sense that you can't mentally. She's constantly transitioning, and there's a method to every single move. Everything she does is methodical, well-balanced, and thought out. But it's thought out instantaneously, if you know what I mean. It's like not thought out. It's just second nature to
right.
It's innate.
You know, I asked that question because, and I missed this, but people were saying online that obviously her coach and mentor, the legendary judo Jean LeBell, was holding up a stopwatch that said 41 seconds. Was that the prediction of the team, that she would submit Sarah Kaufman in 41 seconds?
No, I think maybe it just, I never talked to Gene about it, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
So I don't know what that meant exactly, but I understand it was 54 seconds, correct?
It was 54, but I'm wondering if that was sort of his prediction and he was showing off that he was only 13 seconds off.
You know what? Let's get Gene on the show and you can ask him, because I don't know. I don't know. But that would be pretty awesome if we thought 41 seconds. But that's nothing that I had discussed with Gene, but maybe he talked to the guys in the back about it.
And how did she feel after the victory? Because there were some people saying, you know, in the press conference, even in the post-fight interview, very businesslike. I mean, obviously she was very excited, she was very happy, but all of a sudden she went from Sarah Kaufman right away to Cris Cyborg and calling her out and saying the things that she said about Cris Cyborg. And we'll ask you about the potential of that fight happening next. But it just seemed like she didn't even give herself a chance to celebrate the moment because she had moved on to the next opponent right away.
Well, that's the kind of professional that Ronda is, and that's why she's so darn good, that she's never satisfied. She's that kind of athlete that is so hard on herself. She cries if she even gets hit once when she's sparring. And so she's like, Kaufman's done. It's what is the next thing that's going to happen? And so, you know, she had moved on from that experience to it's not a very Zen Buddhist mentality, being in the moment. Yeah. But it's how Ronda is, and she's a very unique individual. I've never met anyone like her, to be honest with you. She's born to be a champion. So you know, in her blood, she's a champion. She said a lot of strong words about Cris Cyborg, calling her Cyroid and Guyborg, and obviously they've been going back and forth for the last few weeks. And then on Twitter after the fight, Cris Cyborg said that it doesn't seem like there's a home for her in Strikeforce, the 145-pound weight class. It doesn't seem like she's interested in going down to 135. Based on your discussions with Strikeforce, obviously everyone wants to see this fight happening. What are the chances of it actually happening next for both Ronda and Cris? Well, I'll be quite honest with you, and I've made some comments about Cyborg that they were quoted in on Yahoo Sports, and they weren't very kind words. In retrospect, I wish I was a little bit kinder, but I was very emotional because she was talking about. I'm not a mean person. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and you know I was pretty mean. And from what I understand, she's actually a pretty nice person. People that I know that know her say she's a very nice person. But I have to be honest with you, there's no way we're going to fight her. I'm not going to give her any advantage. I mean, she's tested positive for anabolic steroids. I believe that was what she tested positive for. And I want to give her Ronda every advantage and her every disadvantage. So 35 is the only weight that we're going to fight her at. You know, there'll be something compelling where it's a huge pay-per-view deal and there's so much money on the line that we would be willing to possibly consider maybe in that case. But other than that, I just, you know, and at the end of the day, I'm the messenger. Ronda makes the decisions. I work for Ronda. So if she says, Darin, I want that fight, I'll do it at 45, then that's what would happen. But I would fight against it. Right. Not that I don't believe that she could beat her at 45, because I believe she could beat Cyborg at any weight. I think Cyborg is very dangerous. Anyone that can hit you with one punch is a very dangerous opponent, you know. Right, but it sounds knock you out with one punch. But it sounds to me like Ronda doesn't want to fight her at 145. She made that quite clear on Saturday night, right? Yes, Ronda said she does not, but you know what I mean? When we first got into the sport, it was 45 is where she wanted to be. She didn't even think she'd be comfortable at 35. Now she's very, very comfortable, as you can see. Right. She's 35 is where she belongs. So I believe that, like Ronda said, if she wanted, you know, when we initially were getting into the Strikeforce, we had to come up to her. Well, now we have the title, and she has to come to us, and she's going to have to figure out a way to make the weight. And I believe that she can make the weight. What about a 140-pound catch weight? Yeah, I don't. What's the point? Right. What's the point? You know, you want her to come. You want her to come down to you, basically. Yes, because I really do believe that she has cheated. And I want to give her every disadvantage and us every advantage possible. And if it means she has to sweat and another hour in the sauna, it gives us an advantage.
Now, would you like to see her do extra drug testing before her next fight to ensure that she is 100% clean in this fight?
Not only would I like it, I will demand it.
What do you mean? What do you mean by demanding it?
I mean, I won't sign the bout agreement unless they agree to random drug testing throughout their camp. From the beginning, from the day that the bout agreement, or maybe even before that point, is signed until the day that they fight. And if they don't agree to that, then we won't fight her.
So will you try to do something like what BJ Penn and Roy McDonald were doing with VADA, the voluntary anti-doping agency, where you go to an independent firm and they do the drug testing throughout the fight, throughout the build-up to the fight?
Absolutely. We would do whatever. And if they say, and I'll be honest, I'd like to take it one step further and do follicle testing, which goes back months, where they take the hair follicles out and we can find out what's been going on over the last 6-8 months.
Wow.
And and if there's any issue about the cost of that, because I believe it's a lot more expensive, I'll pay for all of it.
Wow.
So
you'll pay out of your own pocket?
I'll pay out of my own pocket.
Why? Why do you feel the need to do this?
Because sometimes people say, well, it's very expensive to do it. It's not fair. We don't have the money. Well, I'm going to take that off the table.
Now, why do you feel so strongly about, I mean, if she paid her time and she comes back and the commissions feel like she is worthy enough of being licensed again, why do you feel like you need to take these extra steps before the fight?
I'll tell you why. Because I believe that this is not the first time she's used steroids. It's one of the first times she's been caught. If you look, I don't think anybody. Are you surprised that she tested positive for steroids, Ariel?
It's obviously that's a tough spot for me to be in. I don't want to, paint someone with that brush.
I'm not surprised based on her physical. I mean, it's been people have speculated, but you couldn't really prove it, and now it's been proven. I believe, this is my belief, I'm not a doctor, but I've been around athletes my whole life, and I believe that when you take steroids, you alter your body permanently. Maybe you lose some of the muscle mass, but a lot remains. So she's permanently altered her body. And I want everything to be to our advantage. She's been taking male hormones. It's not only unethical, it's friggin' dangerous, and you're endangering the lives of the athletes. She's coming in there basically with man-like strength from male hormones in her body, and she's endangering the lives of our athletes. And I'm totally against steroids. I can understand it for an older athlete that's trying to, for recovery, and they're trying to get their hormone levels to that of a 25-year-old, but not for a female to be taking male hormones, for other than just to be a superior creature, Here's
the fascinating thing about the situation. Let's say the Cris Cyborg who fought Gina Carano a few years ago, even the Cris Cyborg who fought Yamanaka in December. Let's say that Cyborg goes down to 135. And I agree with every single thing you said. And I love the fact that you're even saying that you'll pay for it yourself. I still think Ronda beats that Cyborg, even with the advantages. I think Ronda has that much talent, and she is just so superior than everyone else. Is this a deal breaker, though? If Cyborg says, I'll take the test that the commission wants, but I'm not doing any extra stuff, is that a deal breaker for you guys?
I'm not going to say for us guys. My job is to protect my athletes. But I work for them at the end of the day. When we do sponsorship deals, I give them the pros and cons of every deal. Sometimes the best deal is the deal we don't do, and, let's hold off. And we've been offered some very lucrative deals that we haven't done, because I believe her stock goes up every week and all the PR that we do and every time she wins a fight. So my point about that is I talk to my athletes, and what do you want to do inevitably? I weigh out the negatives and the positives of each situation. They tell me what they want to do. If Ronda wants to do it under those circumstances, then I would have to agree to it, because I'm her employee, basically, as her manager.
And have you had any preliminary talks from Saturday night, Sunday, this morning, whatever, with Zuffa, with Strikeforce about the possibility of this fight happening, or is it too early?
I spoke with the Showtime people the evening of the fight after Ronda's victory, and we just briefly, it was very loud in there and very emotional, so I don't remember exactly, but I said, this is Cyborg Ronda is worthy of a pay-per-view, and they didn't disagree with me. But so it's something, of course, it's, I don't think in the history of the sport has any fighter been so devastating and dominated with just one technique. Maybe Krokoff with his high kick, but not even to this degree.
Right.
I'm sure people are petrified of Ronda right now. There might be some girls out there like Sarah McMahon, the wrestler, that may want to come in, but it's the only one that seems to make any sense right now as far as somebody that would give her a challenge.
Pay-per-view.
Ronda wants a challenge.
And pay-per-view is so fascinating. What do you think the chances are of Showtime putting this fight on pay-per-view?
It's really, I spoke with them. They have a monthly subscription business model. I'm not in the entertainment industry in that respect. I'm a sports entertainment manager, so I don't understand what their business model is. But my common sense tells me that if they could maybe get 1 million hits at $49.95, and the split is 45-55 or 50-50, and it could put $25 million in their pocket, it probably makes sense.
Going into this fight, we saw Ronda Rousey just blow up as a star between the Tate fight and the Kaufman fight. I mean, what the UFC is doing with her and Conan and ESPN, the body issue, all this stuff. What do you think is next for her? I mean, she even sort of alluded to maybe some Hollywood stuff. That makes everyone a little nervous in MMA because we saw what happened to Gina Carano. But what are you now doing in the next few months before her next fight to even make that star that much more bigger?
Well, what we're doing, I believe, like if you look at the great martial arts of the world, the majority of them, martial artists, the majority of them have made their wealth, like the Chuck Norrises of the world and Jean-Claude Van Damme's. And I'm not saying Van Damme was a great martial artist, but most of them have made the money outside of the sport, in the movie industry, So for me, it's really for Ronda to be able to be herself, pursue her dreams, to create challenges for her. If movie opportunities come up, it's going to have to be it's going to have to be a big budget film, for us to do it. We're not going to be doing little small budget pictures, but we're exploring every possible avenue, any way that we can monetize and that Ronda likes, then that's what we would consider. She, as you could tell, she likes to fight.
Right.
It's in her. She's not a mean person, but she's a mean fighter.
So this makes a lot of people nervous. Is there a chance she gets, lured into the world of Hollywood films and glitz and glamour of all that and leaves us like Gina Carano did?
Listen, anything's possible, but I don't see that happening in the near future. I think Ronda has at least another couple of years to be fighting.
Okay.
And it's
But just that, you just put a couple. I mean, obviously it's all talk, but I mean she's only 25. Wouldn't that be so tragic and I guess she could make a whole lot more money in Hollywood, right?
At the end of the day, the lifespan of a fight, or the time in which they can make money, it's a very small window. You and I can go on and make money for the rest of our lives as long as our brains function, but the body breaks down. So you want them to make as much money in as short amount of time as possible, so they can go ahead and live lives without worrying and taking care of their families and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, that's if she could retire undefeated and unscathed, that would be awesome. But it's not for me to say.
Sure.
I'm a manager. I want her to do what she wants to do. Right now, she wants to fight. So we're not, maybe an opportunity comes up that we can't turn down. But thus far, we're fighting, and that's what we're focusing on.
What do you think the chances are, and how much will you push for this, of her fighting in a UFC octagon in the near future?
It's really up to Lorenzo and Dana and the Showtime people and how they're all Showtime Strikeforce people. Right now, she's a Strikeforce champion, and that's what we need to focus on. I'm a huge MMA. I'm an MMA fan first before I'm a manager or anything else, and I'm a UFC fan. I'm a huge UFC fan. So, it would be exciting for me to see somebody do something, be the first at something. It would be history making. Somebody, when Dana's been sort of but very vocal about his disregard or dislike for women fighting, and now Ronda's won his heart to the point where it would even be considered. I mean, so from that perspective, it would be an amazing thing. But I think when you think from a woman's perspective, Strikeforce is the place to be. It's the creme de la creme for female fighters right now. So we're very happy where we're at.
So,
but if the opportunity comes up, of course, we would do it.
And by the way, Darin, again, be honest, and you have been very honest with us, and I just sort of say this as a disclaimer of sorts, but
yeah.
When you first met Ronda, did you ever think that she would really turn into the star that she is today, and not just a star, but the dominant force that she is inside the cage, unlike anything we've really ever seen in women's MMA and maybe in men's mixed martial arts as well? Someone coming in and finishing their opponents with the exact same move in the very first round.
Nobody could have anticipated that, but I did. It's almost, I think we spoke about it before. I feel it's like just for the opportunity for Ronda and I to come together. When I met her, she didn't have any direction. She was practically living out of her car, and she didn't know how to get into MMA, and it was something that she was considering. And I sat down with one of our strength and conditioning coaches, Leo Fonku, and we sat down with her mom and said, this is what we're going to do over the next year. Don't sign a contract. There's nothing. If it doesn't happen in a year, then forget about it. But we're going to deliver Ronda a Strikeforce title. She wasn't even a Strikeforce champion. She wasn't even fighting in Strikeforce. She wasn't even an amateur at that point.
Wow.
And we got 3 amateur fights, and just everything has been almost like a movie script how it's gone down. I kind of planned it, and I'm not going to say it's because I'm such a great manager. I'm a genius. I really believe it's from the heavens. And it was just sort of destiny for things to go down like this.
It's an unbelievable story. And by the way, is she going to move out of that apartment? I mean, come on. She deserves something better.
I talked to her about it. I want her to buy a house. I mean, I have a financial background, and I think she needs to make an investment in a home for herself. And she kind of likes to live that way. She likes to. I think it keeps her hungry. Staying close to her roots. But I think it's time for a new place.
I agree as well. One last thing, if you could put a time frame on it for us, I think a lot of people, especially considering the fact that she did not get injured and it lasted, it ended so quickly on Saturday night. When do you expect to see Ronda back in a Strikeforce cage?
It's really up to people at Showtime, Strikeforce, and Zuffa. So I think they're all going to put their heads together, and I just, they call me and say, Darren, this is what we want to do. I don't really tell them what to do. They tell me what they're going to do, and I could say yay or nay. Obviously, I don't have to take a fight, something of that nature. But so my guess is we're probably in the next 4 or 5 months, maybe January.
Okay. That seems fair, especially considering the Strikeforce calendar coming up. You would think that she would be in the main event, especially if it's a fight like her versus Cris Cyborg. And, we are very interactive here. Ronda Rousey's mother, Dr. Anne Maria, listening to this interview and tweeting that the fact that at Ronda Rousey she puts sort of stars next to could beat someone on steroids doesn't mean she should have to do that. I guess that's in response to what I'm saying, and I agree with her. I agree with you as well, Darin. Thank you so much for stopping by. This was great. Very insightful stuff. Would love to have you on in the future. And congratulations once again on a massive, massive night for you guys with Ronda Rousey defeating Sarah Kaufman.
Thank you, Ariel. And I'm a big fan of yours, as you know. So I'm honored that you had me on the show. Thank
you very much, and much success to you and your team.
All right, thanks. Bye.
There he is, Darin Harvey, the manager for Ronda Rousey, also manager to the likes of Jared Papazian, who is a UFC bantamweight, Manny Gambirian, a bunch of guys. So check him out. He is on Twitter, twitter.com/Darin Harvey, DARIN Harvey, HARVEY. So congratulations to him. Ronda Rousey's mother, if she's listening, congratulations to my mother for being such a great mother, and congratulations to Ronda Rousey as well.